Sarah Thompson, a 40-year-old woman, spent much of her life working as a cleaner in a luxury hotel in the heart of Manhattan, New York. She always had a strong work ethic, learned early on while growing up in an immigrant family struggling to survive in the Bronx. Her parents, who came from the Chicago suburbs, taught Sarah the value of hard work and perseverance, values she maintained while trying to provide a better life for her own family. Sarah lived in a small apartment in Brooklyn with her husband, Mark, and their two teenage children, Jake and Emily. Life in the big city was expensive and challenging, especially for a family living paycheck to paycheck. Sarah's job as a cleaner, though honest and respectable, paid little, and the bills seemed never-ending. Despite the difficulties, Sarah always tried to maintain a loving and positive environment for her children, encouraging them to study and pursue their dreams. Mark, Sarah's husband, was originally a dedicated partner. They met in college, where Mark studied accounting and Sarah studied arts. However, both their dreams were interrupted when Sarah became pregnant with Jake, leading them to leave their studies to work and support the new family. Over the years, Mark became more distant, spending most of his time away from home, often returning late at night smelling of alcohol. Sarah began to suspect something was wrong, but never wanted to believe their marriage was really in danger. In the rare moments of rest, Sarah used to buy lottery tickets. Not that she really believed she could win, but it was a small escape, a chance to dream of a different life. For Sarah, the lottery represented a faint hope of escaping financial difficulties and providing a more comfortable life for her children. She imagined what she would do if she had enough money. Pay off debts, buy her own house, and maybe even go back to studying art, something she had always loved. One day, after an especially long and tiring day at work, Sarah decided to buy a ticket for a new lottery that was being widely publicized. The prize promised millions of dollars, and Sarah allowed herself, even if just for a brief moment, to imagine what she would do with so much money. She bought the ticket discreetly, without mentioning anything to Mark, fearing he would mock her for spending money on something so unlikely. A week later, Sarah was cleaning one of the hotel rooms when she noticed the lottery numbers were being drawn on the room's TV. She stopped for a moment, more out of curiosity than anything else, and began comparing the drawn numbers with her ticket. As each number was announced, Sarah's heart began to race. Was she seeing correctly? All the numbers matched. Sarah had won the lottery. The shock was so great that Sarah had to sit down to avoid fainting. She, a simple cleaner in New York, was now a millionaire. The initial disbelief was quickly followed by intense euphoria. Sarah could hardly believe her luck. She began to imagine all the things she could do with the money. Buy a spacious house for her family, secure her children's education, perhaps even start her own business. However, along with the euphoria came a wave of concern. Sarah knew that such an amount of money could change their lives in ways she never imagined, but she was also aware that money could bring problems. She remembered stories of lottery winners who lost everything due to rash decisions or bad influences. Sarah also worried about how Mark would react to the news. She knew her husband well and knew he wasn't good with money, especially considering his recent habits. Sarah decided she needed time to think. She left the hotel and went straight to a coffee shop where she sat and pondered what to do next. The idea of telling Mark immediately made her uneasy. What if he wanted to spend the money irresponsibly? What if he tried to take control of everything? Sarah felt a knot in her stomach at these possibilities. She wanted to protect the prize, not just for herself but mainly for Jake and Emily, ensuring they had a secure future. After much reflection, Sarah made a difficult decision. She would not tell Mark about the prize, at least not yet. She needed time to plan and ensure the money was safe. Sarah decided to consult a lawyer to help her protect the prize and plan for the future. With a heavy heart but determined, Sarah left the coffee shop with a plan in mind, aware that this decision would mark the beginning of a new phase in her life. The morning after discovering she had won the lottery, Sarah woke up with a mix of euphoria and anxiety. The reality of her new situation was still sinking in, and she knew she needed to act quickly to protect the prize. The silence of the apartment, still empty with Mark and the children out of the house, gave her a moment to reflect on what to do next. Sarah knew that telling Mark about the prize was a risk. In recent years, Mark had become unpredictable and irresponsible with money, and Sarah feared he might make rash decisions that could jeopardize the family's future. She was also aware of Mark's issues with alcohol and suspected he might be involved with gambling, which only heightened her concern. Sarah felt she needed to protect the prize not just for herself, but mainly for Jake and Emily. Determined to find a safe solution, Sarah decided to seek legal advice. She wanted to ensure the money was legally protected, so she could use it for the children's welfare and to build a more secure and stable life. Sarah found a lawyer recommended by a colleague at the hotel, known for his discretion and experience in sensitive financial matters. She scheduled a consultation for the next day and tried to act normal throughout the day, hiding her internal agitation. At the lawyer's office, Sarah explained her situation. She talked about how she had won the lottery and her fears regarding Mark's behavior. The lawyer, understanding and professional, listened carefully and offered some options. He suggested Sarah deposit the money into a separate, confidential account in her own name to prevent anyone else, including Mark, from having access. He also recommended setting up a trust fund for Jake and Emily, ensuring the money would be dedicated to the children's education and future. Sarah felt a mix of relief and nervousness hearing the lawyer's suggestions. She knew she was taking steps to protect the money and secure her family's future, but she also felt the weight of keeping this secret from Mark. The lawyer emphasized the importance of confidentiality and advised Sarah not to make any hasty decisions. He also suggested she consider discussing the matter with Mark eventually, in a controlled and safe manner. As Sarah left the lawyer's office, she reflected on the complexity of her situation. On one hand, she was excited about the prospect of a secure and comfortable future. On the other hand, she was haunted by guilt and fear that by hiding the prize from Mark, she was breaking the trust in their marriage. Sarah knew that regardless of how she acted, she would have to face the consequences of her choices. Back at the apartment, Sarah began implementing the plan with the lawyer's help. She opened a new bank account and transferred the prize money there, ensuring the transactions were done discreetly. Sarah also started the process of setting up the trust fund for the children, feeling a sense of relief knowing that at least Jake and Emily would be financially secure. Despite these measures, Sarah knew she couldn't keep hiding the prize from Mark forever, but she needed time to think about how to tell him in a way that minimized the risks. Meanwhile, Mark began to notice small changes in Sarah. She was more reserved and sometimes seemed lost in thought. He noticed she was spending more money than usual, buying new clothes for the children and improving the quality of the food they bought. Mark was intrigued, knowing Sarah's cleaner salary didn't explain these expenses. His curiosity soon turned to suspicion, and he began to wonder if Sarah was hiding something important from him. Sarah, aware of Mark's observations, tried to be as discreet as possible. She knew Mark was starting to suspect something, and this made her nervous. She began questioning the decision to hide the prize, wondering if she was making the right choice. Sarah didn't want to hurt their marriage, but she also didn't want to risk her children's future. She was in a moral and emotional dilemma, struggling to balance her concern for the family's financial security and loyalty to her husband. Tension at home began to rise. Mark, increasingly suspicious, tried to start conversations about finances, asking Sarah how she was managing to pay for all the new things. Sarah, already anxious, responded evasively, saying she had been saving for a while and decided to use the savings to improve things at home. Mark wasn't convinced, but decided not to press Sarah immediately, preferring to keep watching and waiting to see if she would reveal anything on her own. As the days passed, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. She knew she couldn't keep hiding the prize from Mark forever, but she wasn't ready to face the possible consequences of telling the truth. Sarah spent sleepless nights thinking about how she could approach the subject and ensure the conversation didn't end in conflict. She knew it would take a lot of courage to take the next step, but she also knew she couldn't delay this decision much longer. While Sarah tried to keep the lottery prize a secret, Mark continued to notice changes in her behavior and spending habits. He saw how Sarah started buying new clothes for the children, improving the quality of food, and even considering small repairs to the apartment. All this seemed unusual for the family's tight budget. Mark's suspicions grew, and he decided he needed to find out the truth. Sarah, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly anxious. She knew Mark was noticing the changes and that her excuses about old savings wouldn't hold up forever. The pressure of keeping the secret began to weigh on her, causing sleepless nights and constant stress. Sarah was torn between the desire to protect the money for the children's future and the guilt of hiding something so significant from Mark. She knew the truth would eventually come out, but feared how it could affect their marriage and the family's emotional stability. One day, while Sarah was at work, Mark decided to investigate further. He searched the apartment for any clues that could explain the recent expenses. That's when he found an envelope hidden at the back of a drawer in the bedroom. Inside the envelope were bank documents mentioning a new account with a substantial amount of money. Mark, surprised and confused, began reading the papers and soon realized Sarah had opened a separate account and transferred a large sum of money there. The discovery left Mark stunned. He felt betrayed and began imagining all possible scenarios. Why would Sarah hide so much money from him? Was she planning to leave him? Distrust and resentment began to grow. Mark, in a state of agitation, decided to dig deeper. He contacted the lawyer mentioned in the documents, pretending to be Sarah. The lawyer, unaware of Mark's true identity, mentioned that the money came from a lottery prize Sarah had won. Mark was shocked. Sarah had won the lottery and didn't tell him? The revelation brought a mix of intense emotions. He was angry that Sarah had hidden something so important, but also felt guilty. He knew that his recent behavior, including issues with alcohol and a possible gambling habit, might have led Sarah to feel she needed to protect the money from him. Mark began to reflect on his own actions and how they might have contributed to the lack of communication and trust in their marriage. Meanwhile, Sarah, still at work, was unaware of what was happening at home. She spent the day worried, knowing she needed to make a decision about when and how to tell Mark about the prize. Sarah was aware that time was running out and that continuing to hide the truth would only increase the tension between them. She wanted to find a suitable moment to have an honest and open conversation, but feared Mark's reaction. When Sarah came home, she felt a strange atmosphere in the air. Mark was sitting in the living room, looking distant and thoughtful. Sarah tried to start a casual conversation, but Mark remained silent, which made her even more nervous. She knew something was wrong, but didn't know what. Finally, Mark stood up and, in a controlled voice, said, "Sarah, I know about the money. I know you won the lottery and opened a separate account. Why didn't you tell me?" Sarah's heart sank. She knew the moment had come, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality of facing Mark with the truth. She sat down, her hands trembling, and began to explain. "Mark, I wanted to tell you, I swear, but I was scared. Scared of what the money could do to us, scared of how you would react. I wanted to protect our kids and ensure they had a secure future. And also, to be honest, I was afraid of how you might use the money, considering everything that's been happening." Mark listened in silence, feeling a mix of pain and understanding. He knew his behavior in recent years hadn't been exemplary and that, in a way, he was partly responsible for Sarah's decision to hide the prize. However, the betrayal still hurt. He wanted to trust Sarah, but the revelation had shaken that trust. After a long silence, Mark finally spoke in a low voice. "I understand why you did this, Sarah, and I admit I haven't been the best husband, but I wish you had trusted me. Now, here we are, and we need to figure out how to move forward." Sarah, feeling a wave of relief and guilt, agreed. She knew that the path to rebuilding trust would be long and difficult, but she was determined to try. Sarah and Mark decided they needed help navigating this complex situation and addressing the underlying issues in their marriage. With the secret revealed, Sarah and Mark faced a new challenge: rebuilding trust and addressing the issues that had led to the current situation. They knew they needed help to process the impact of the lottery prize on their lives and to work through the difficulties that had arisen in their marriage in recent years. Sarah, feeling guilty and anxious to make things right, suggested they seek couples counseling. Mark, initially hesitant, agreed. He knew that despite feeling betrayed, he also bore some responsibility for the estrangement between them. Mark's problems with alcohol and possible gambling addiction had contributed to the distrust and Sarah's decision to hide the money. They booked a session with a relationship therapist, Dr. Ellen White. In the therapist's office, Sarah and Mark began to open up about their feelings of hurt, guilt, and regret. Sarah explained how she felt the need to protect the money to ensure a secure future for the children, especially given her concerns about Mark's behavior. Mark, in turn, admitted his fears of being a financial burden on the family and how this led him to seek quick and often harmful solutions. Dr. White helped the couple explore their concerns and insecurities. She emphasized the importance of rebuilding communication and trust and encouraged Sarah and Mark to be honest about their feelings and expectations. The therapist also suggested that Mark seek help to address his issues with alcohol and any possible gambling addiction, something he acknowledged was necessary. As they worked through therapy, Sarah and Mark began to rediscover what had brought them together at the beginning of their relationship. They reminisced about the happy times in college, about how they shared dreams and hopes for the future. These memories helped rekindle the affection and love that still existed, but had been overshadowed by years of hardship and hurt. Sarah also took steps to ensure the lottery money was used responsibly. She and Mark decided that part of it would be used to pay off outstanding debts, relieving the immediate financial pressure. Another part would be invested in an educational fund for Jake and Emily, ensuring the children had access to the best educational opportunities. Sarah also planned to set aside some money for safe investments, aiming for long-term stability. As the couple worked to reconcile and build a new foundation for their relationship, they realized the importance of including the children in this process. Jake and Emily, though still young, sensed something was happening and felt the tension at home. Sarah and Mark decided to be honest with the children, explaining in an age-appropriate way about the family's financial situation and the lottery prize. They also emphasized that, regardless of anything, the family's love and support were unconditional. Jake and Emily were surprised, but also relieved to know the family was taking steps to improve their situation. They appreciated their parents' honesty and felt more secure knowing there was a plan for the future. Sarah and Mark committed to maintaining open communication with the children, ensuring they felt part of the decision-making process. After revealing the lottery prize and deciding to seek couples counseling, Sarah and Mark began to work intensely to rebuild their relationship. The first step in the process was the hardest, facing the consequences of the secrets kept and the poorly made decisions. Both knew that trust had been shaken and that, to move forward, they needed to deal with their fears and insecurities. During therapy sessions with Dr. Ellen White, Sarah and Mark explored the roots of the problems in their marriage. Sarah admitted that by hiding the lottery prize, she acted out of fear and distrust of Mark's ability to handle large sums of money, especially due to his recent issues with alcohol and gambling. She shared how she felt overwhelmed with the responsibility of protecting the children's future and how this led her to make decisions alone, without involving Mark. Mark, in turn, acknowledged that his actions and behaviors had significantly contributed to the deterioration of trust in their marriage. He spoke openly about his struggles with alcohol and the financial pressure he felt to support the family. Mark also admitted that his involvement with gambling was a desperate attempt to solve financial problems quickly, but ended up worsening the situation. He expressed remorse for putting the family at risk and for losing Sarah's trust. With Dr. White's guidance, Sarah and Mark began to develop strategies to improve communication and rebuild trust. They established clear rules on how to handle money and make financial decisions, ensuring both had a say in these matters. Sarah and Mark also agreed to be more transparent about their concerns and feelings, avoiding keeping secrets from each other. One of the most important decisions they made was for Mark to seek professional help for his addiction problems. Mark began attending Alcoholics Anonymous and Gamblers Anonymous meetings, support groups that helped him better understand his behaviors and find healthy ways to cope with stress. These meetings were a crucial step for Mark, who began to take responsibility for his actions and work actively on his recovery. While Mark faced his personal demons, Sarah also went through a process of self-discovery. She realized she had placed too much pressure on herself to be the sole provider of emotional and financial stability for the family. Sarah began seeking ways to take better care of her mental health and well-being, including engaging in activities that helped her relax and find joy outside of family responsibilities. She returned to painting, a long-time passion she had set aside, and found great comfort and creative expression in this activity. As both worked on their individual issues, Sarah and Mark also made conscious efforts to reconnect as a couple. They started having regular date nights, rediscovering the importance of spending quality time together. These nights were simple, like dinners at home or walks in the park, but helped rekindle the bond they shared. They also engaged in family activities, ensuring Jake and Emily felt included in the healing and rebuilding process. One of the areas of focus during therapy was how Sarah and Mark would handle the lottery prize money. Both agreed that despite the initial tensions, the money should be used in a way that benefited the whole family in the long run. They paid off all outstanding debts, which alleviated a significant financial burden. A significant portion of the money was dedicated to an educational fund for Jake and Emily, ensuring both had access to the best educational opportunities. Sarah and Mark also decided to invest part of the money in a retirement fund, ensuring future financial security. Over time, Sarah and Mark began to feel the benefits of their choices and efforts. The financial tension that once dominated their lives diminished, and both felt more secure and stable. Mark, now sober and committed to his recovery, found a new job that challenged him in a positive way and gave him a sense of purpose. Sarah, in turn, continued to grow as a person, finding new passions and rediscovering old interests. As the couple continued to rebuild their lives together, they realized that while the road to reconciliation was long and challenging, it was worth it. They supported each other in moments of vulnerability and celebration, strengthening the bond between them. Sarah and Mark learned that the true value of their relationship lay not in money or material stability, but in the support, understanding, and love they shared. As time went on, Sarah and Mark began to establish a new routine that reflected their renewed priorities and values. The decision to seek professional help and work on their individual issues brought new clarity and focus to their lives. However, even with significant improvements, new challenges arose, testing the couple's commitment to the process of healing and growth. Sarah, now more confident and motivated, decided to invest in her passion for art. With some of the lottery money, she opened a small art studio in her neighborhood in Brooklyn. The studio, which initially offered painting classes and exhibitions by local artists, quickly became a gathering place for the community. Sarah found great satisfaction in sharing her passion for art and seeing the positive impact the studio had on the lives of her students and the community at large. However, running her own business brought new challenges for Sarah. She discovered that besides being a talented artist, she needed to develop management and marketing skills to keep the studio running. Sarah found herself dealing with financial issues, staff management, and the pressure of attracting enough clients and students to keep the studio sustainable. Despite the challenges, Sarah was determined to make the studio thrive, seeing it not only as a personal accomplishment, but also as a way to give back to the community. Mark, on the other hand, continued to work on his recovery and establish himself in his new job. He found satisfaction in his work, which involved financial consulting for local small businesses. Mark used his own experiences of financial hardship to offer practical and empathetic advice to his clients, helping him connect meaningfully with them. He also began to get involved in financial education programs for young people, helping teach essential skills he wished he had learned earlier in life. While both were busy with their new ventures, Sarah and Mark made an effort to maintain a balance between work and personal life. They continued attending couples therapy, which helped them deal with new challenges and maintain open communication. During these sessions, they discussed not only practical issues like finances and quality time, but also their fears and hopes for the future. Therapy helped strengthen their bond and ensure they were on the same page regarding their goals and values. Jake and Emily, now teenagers, were also going through their own transitions. Jake, inspired by his mother's new passion for art, began exploring his own artistic talents, attending workshops at Sarah's studio. He found a creative outlet that helped him cope with the pressures of adolescence and develop new confidence. Emily, on the other hand, excelled in school and was considering universities, something that once seemed like a distant dream due to the family's financial constraints. Despite the achievements and progress, Sarah and Mark faced new challenges related to family dynamics and external pressures. The responsibility of managing a business and a demanding job, along with raising two teenagers, often left the couple exhausted. Sarah, in particular, felt guilty about not spending as much time with Mark and the children as she would like, due to the studio's demands. Mark also struggled to find a balance, wanting to support Sarah in her business while managing his own responsibilities. In a moment of honesty during a therapy session, Sarah expressed her fears of failing as a mother and wife by focusing so much on her business. She feared that by pursuing her own dreams, she was neglecting her family. Mark, understanding, reassured her that he understood the importance of the studio to her and that he was proud of her achievements. He also admitted that he missed spending quality time together and suggested they try to find ways to better balance their personal and professional lives. The two decided to set clear boundaries for work and personal time. They scheduled regular family nights and time for themselves as a couple, ensuring that time together was a priority. Sarah also began delegating more responsibilities at the studio, hiring a manager to help with daily operations, which gave her more freedom to focus on her family and her own creative interests. As they worked to find a balance, Sarah and Mark realized the importance of being patient and kind to themselves and each other. They acknowledged that the process of healing and growth was not linear and that challenges were a natural part of the journey. With each other's support and a commitment to continue communicating openly and honestly, they found a way to navigate the complexities of their lives. Sarah's art studio flourished, becoming a vital part of the local community. Mark continued to excel in his work and found meaning in helping others navigate their own financial challenges. Jake and Emily grew up in a supportive and creative environment, each finding their own paths and interests. The family, united and resilient, faced each challenge with determination and love. As Sarah and Mark progressed in their new personal and professional journeys, they faced a series of challenges that tested their resilience and unity. Sarah's art studio became a success in the community, attracting not only local residents but also visitors from other parts of the city. The art classes and exhibitions brought a new vibrancy to the neighborhood, making the studio a gathering place for artists and enthusiasts. However, success brought a series of new problems. With increased demand, Sarah found herself overwhelmed with managing the studio. She started working overtime to coordinate events, manage finances, and ensure the quality of the classes. Sarah, passionate about what she did, often ignored her own exhaustion, wanting to ensure the studio continued to thrive. However, this intense pace began to affect her health and well-being. Mark, noticing the impact the stress was having on Sarah, tried to convince her to delegate more responsibilities. He suggested hiring more staff or even a manager to help run the studio. Sarah, initially reluctant, felt responsible for the studio's success and feared that delegating too much could compromise the quality of services. However, after some honest conversations and therapy sessions, Sarah realized she needed help to avoid burnout. They hired an experienced manager to handle the daily logistics of the studio, which alleviated some of the pressure on Sarah. With this new structure, Sarah could focus more on her passion for art and creating new growth opportunities for the studio. She began exploring partnerships with local schools and art organizations, offering therapeutic art programs and community workshops. These initiatives not only expanded the studio's reach, but also gave Sarah a new sense of purpose and fulfillment. While Sarah dealt with the challenges of her studio, Mark also faced his own obstacles at work. The local economy was going through a period of instability, affecting many of the small businesses he served as a financial consultant. Mark worked diligently to help his clients adapt and survive, offering advice on resource management and long-term planning. He dedicated himself to helping local entrepreneurs find creative solutions to their problems, which reinforced his role as a trusted figure in the community. Besides work pressures, Mark also continued to deal with his recovery from alcohol and gambling issues. He regularly attended support meetings and kept an open dialogue with Sarah and the children about his struggles and progress. Mark knew that recovery was an ongoing process and that he needed to remain vigilant to avoid relapse. He found strength in the support of his family and the support community he had built over time. As the couple navigated these challenges, they also faced family issues that required attention and care. Jake, now in his senior year of high school, began feeling the pressure of deciding on his future. He was torn between pursuing a career in visual arts, inspired by his mother, or exploring other areas that also interested him. Sarah and Mark worked together to support Jake, ensuring he knew he had the freedom to choose the path that most inspired him. Emily, on the other hand, was preparing to enter university. She received several acceptance letters and was excited about the opportunities ahead. However, Emily also felt the anxiety of moving away from home for the first time and facing the responsibilities of university life. Sarah and Mark made sure to be present to discuss these changes with Emily, reassuring her that they would always be there to support her, no matter where life took her. During this phase, the family faced an unexpected challenge when Sarah became seriously ill due to stress and exhaustion. She was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that required medical treatment and significant lifestyle changes. The news was a shock to everyone, and Sarah had to reassess her priorities and learn to take better care of herself. Mark and the children were a great support, helping her navigate the necessary changes and ensuring she received the necessary care. This difficult period brought the family even closer together. Mark, who had overcome his own challenges, now devoted himself to caring for Sarah and ensuring she had the support she needed for her recovery. Jake and Emily also got involved, helping with daily chores and offering emotional support. Sarah's illness served as a powerful reminder to everyone of the importance of caring for each other and valuing their time together. With time, Sarah began to recover, adapting to a more balanced lifestyle that included less work and more focus on her health and well-being. She continued to lead the studio, but with a more sustainable approach and delegating more responsibilities to her team. Sarah learned the importance of setting boundaries and valuing her time for rest and recovery. Mark, seeing Sarah's recovery, felt inspired by her resilience. He continued to support the family and community, finding satisfaction in his work and his role as a father and husband. He and Sarah continued to grow together, strengthening their partnership and learning to face challenges as a united team. After Sarah's health challenges, the Thompson family found a new rhythm in life. Sarah's recovery was slow but steady, and she dedicated herself to adopting a more balanced lifestyle. She began to value her moments of rest and self-care more, recognizing the importance of maintaining her physical and mental health. With Mark and the children's support, Sarah managed to adjust her responsibilities at the art studio, delegating more tasks and focusing on projects that brought her joy and satisfaction. Sarah's art studio continued to flourish, becoming an important cultural center in the local community. The art classes and therapeutic workshops she introduced gained popularity, helping many people find expression and healing through art. Sarah also began collaborating with local schools, offering extracurricular art programs for children and teenagers. She felt a deep fulfillment seeing the positive impact of her work on people's lives, especially young people, who found in the studio a safe and creative space. Mark, meanwhile, continued to excel in his financial consulting career. He specialized in helping small businesses and startups, using his personal and professional experiences to offer practical and empathetic advice. Mark became a respected figure in the local business community, known for his integrity and dedication. He also continued to support his recovery, regularly attending support meetings and maintaining an open dialogue with Sarah and his children about his struggles and progress. Jake and Emily, both in important phases of their lives, benefited from the supportive and open communication environment Sarah and Mark had cultivated. Jake decided to pursue a career in visual arts, inspired by his mother's passion and the talents he had discovered over the years. He enrolled in a reputable art school, where he began exploring different forms of artistic expression and developing his unique style. The family supported his decision, proud of his commitment and enthusiasm. Emily, on the other hand, was preparing for the transition to university. She chose a university that offered a strong program in environmental sciences, a field that had always fascinated her. Emily was excited about the prospect of exploring new ideas and engaging in research that could make a difference in the world. Sarah and Mark ensured Emily knew that, although she was moving away physically, she always had a home full of love and support. As the family navigated these new phases, Sarah and Mark reflected on their journey to this point. They had gone through significant ups and downs, from the challenge of dealing with secrets and distrust to the process of healing and reconciliation. Each obstacle they faced together strengthened them as individuals and as a couple. They learned the importance of open communication, honesty, and mutual support, and these lessons continue to guide their actions and decisions. One of the most emotional moments for Sarah was the opening of a new wing in the art studio, dedicated to exhibitions of emerging artists. She organized a special event to celebrate the opening, inviting community members, local artists, and friends. During the event, Mark gave a moving speech, acknowledging Sarah's hard work and dedication. He talked about how the studio was not just a business, but a space that promoted creativity, healing, and community. Mark also reflected on his own journey, thanking Sarah and the children for their unconditional support. He shared how the experience of facing his own demons and working on recovery had made him a stronger and more aware person. Mark expressed his gratitude for having a family that supported and believed in him, even in the toughest times. His speech was met with applause and tears, touching everyone present. Sarah, moved, also gave a speech, thanking everyone who had supported her along the way. She talked about how the studio was a dream come true, but also a responsibility she took seriously. Sarah expressed her gratitude to Mark, Jake, and Emily, highlighting how each of them had played a crucial role in her life and success. She also thanked the community, which had embraced the studio with open arms and helped make it a success. After the event, Sarah and Mark spent the evening talking about the future. They discussed their plans and hopes, both for themselves and for Jake and Emily. Sarah mentioned her desire to expand the therapeutic art programs to reach more people, while Mark was interested in writing a book about his experiences with finances and recovery. Both felt that despite the challenges faced, they were in a positive phase of their lives, full of possibilities and hope. The health challenges Sarah faced and Mark's recovery journey were powerful reminders that life is unpredictable and full of twists and turns. However, they also learned that with love, support, and determination, it's possible to overcome any obstacle. Sarah and Mark knew that no matter what the future held, they were ready to face it together as a strong and united team. In the end, the Thompson family found themselves in a position of strength and stability, ready to embrace the new opportunities and challenges life presented. They continued to value their time together, support each other, and focus on what truly mattered: the love, honesty, and resilience that united them.